everyone. Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. In a market where attention spans are short and expectations are high, real estate professionals must be more than just transaction managers. They must be trusted advisors, marketing strategists, and fierce advocates. Today's guest blends all of that with an edge, a deep understanding of Northeast Florida, a background in both banking and interior design, and a strong digital presence that attracts buyers and sellers across the country. Whether it's staging a home to perfection, pricing with precision, or negotiating with confidence, she makes it her mission to deliver results while still making an experience feel personal and approachable. If you're looking for someone who truly knows how to combine strategy, style, and service, then lean in. Please welcome Bobbie Jean DeMunck to the show.
Ooh.
Welcome. Glad you made it down this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We were talking pre-show a little bit, this is an interesting market right now. I mean, you're sitting on a lot of listings, but a lot of top agents are sitting on some of them, a lot of them in double digits as you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we want to definitely break that down to anyone listening to it here in, what is it? End of June, 2025.
Yeah, halfway through the year.
Yeah. But, you've been in the business for almost 15 years. If I got your LinkedIn correctly, somewhere in there, you said
Correct.
2011, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm really, curious, as we'll talk about through the show, the different things that you've seen have changed. So there's agents who are listening out there who may have just became an agent in 2021. They've seen a market change, but they haven't seen a market change and then change again and then change again, as you have, as I have too, 20 years in this business.
Correct.
Yeah. So kick us off a little bit. Where's Bobbie Jean from? Tell us a little bit about what 18-year-old Bobbie Jean was envisioning herself doing for a career.
Well, I'm from South Florida. I've grew up kind of in Central Florida, been in Jacksonville, 15, 20 years, I think. I lost track. I noticed I can't keep my timeline of life together anymore. Must be the age.
It starts to all blend together, especially when you have kids. Yeah.
Well, 18-year-old Bobbie Jean was almost married, having a baby. Mm-hmm. So envisioning real estate wasn't it. But I love interior design. I love banking. I've always loved housing. And I love sales, and I believe real estate's about sales. I mean, you're selling yourself to a buyer, a seller. You're selling your listings. You have to.
Is it you like that when you say sales? It's just kind of the challenge of it.
Yes. How
you can. And I don't want to use. I think the psychologists would use the word manipulate, but you're not really. You're not really manipulating. You're in real estate. You're understanding what they want and then showing them what they want, and they're selling themselves. Really, right?
Well, that's why I think it's great when you hire an agent who actually listens, because if you listen to your, buyers and sellers, and really dig down, you can normally find them what they want. And you have to, sell your offers to, the sellers and to the agents and build relationships. So I think that's why I like it.
Yeah.
I like the challenge of the negotiation.
Well, and the key part of negotiation is actually, knowing when to speak and when not to speak, right? It was a lot of listening. That's part of, that whole how to win friends and influence people. But, the whole strategy is listening a lot.
Uh-huh.
And then responding as if you actually did listen to them and winning them over, right?
I like how you did that. And you did listen to them.
Well, and because that's working both. You're not only I think you gestured something there too. You're working with your buyer. In most cases, you're showing them homes that they've asked you, to show. You're not limited to an inventory on a car lot. If you were working on a car lot, hey, I'm selling Toyotas. That's all you have. You have all these homes that you can show them based on what their wants are and in area of town and so forth. But really, it's a lot of half the sales is actually taking their offer and selling it to the listing agent and seller.
Yes, I mean, it's really, making sure you can tweak the timelines. You're giving the best price. You can add value. I always say the timeline's the most important thing. People don't want to take their house off the market. So I tend to win them more by trying to make the time frames as short as possible. That's my little trick.
That's actually an interesting tip there, and let's drill into that a little bit, because the buyer and the seller, I was actually first time I did it, but just a recent person loan I was working on, and I went into Chat GPT and I said, hey, write them this email, because we can talk to people, but you follow it up with a little email, say, hey, this is what we talked about, right?
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I want you to create a little timeline for them, because we need to do this, and this, and it gives them, but it gives them a peace of mind because they know what's happening, a little bit of what's supposed to happen next.
Yes.
Right. And obviously a seller, probably one of the biggest questions as a listing agent, would you agree, is like, how fast do we want to sell this?
Yeah.
Are you looking, are you under contract in another home? Do we need to drop this one to get there? Or are you moving because of work, or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
They have a reason for selling and how fast they want to sell.
Yes. And now it's not like it was before when, homes were flying off the market, people are paying over pricing. So now it's even more sensitive. Going back to the time thing you were saying, is being able to explain to them that we're not in that market. It's going to sit a little longer. Stay positive. We're marketing it. You have a great product. We just got to get the price right to get it in front of the right person. Give
me an idea. Because it sounds like to me, and help me if I'm wrong, when you're making you're representing the buyer, mm-hmm. and you're making that offer, what do you do to kind of get across, or to sell the seller, mm-hmm. on the offer with the timeline that you're pushing? I guess I think a lot of us would assume that you are pushing a quick close, but not everyone wants a quick close.
Yeah, I normally try to reach out to the agent to ask what's important. It's been, even though the market's been a little kind of crazy, you don't have as many multiple offers I haven't seen, but the few that I have seen, it's, I think having really more of a shorter inspection period time is very important, because that's, you're taking it off, and then, what if the house has issues or no one wants to do repairs? Like, right. It's a big hurdle. It's, so I always try to get that. And so trying to have good relationships with my home inspectors, because, if I want like a 3 or 5 day turnaround on my home inspection, that's pretty fast.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the leverage I did, especially when things were going crazy. I would do 24 hours sometimes.
Yeah.
To win them. And, loan approval as well, just making sure that you're not like, I've noticed, because, dealing on the other end, being a listing agent and working with a lot of sellers, that's what I look at. When I look at the offers, not only do I look at the price, it's more of those time frames, because that's where we're taking it off the market. And, right now this is really normally busy season, so we don't want to be taking it off and then miss our little...
Yeah. Plus, it makes everyone look bad.
Yeah.
House going back on the market. What's wrong with it?
Oh,
We don't know.
Always something wrong with it.
There's what's the rumor going to fly around? Is it something wrong with the house or something wrong with that buyer? Right.
Yep.
We don't ever know. I have noticed, and I think this needs to be stamped out in the thing, is from the lending side.
Okay.
The loan approval.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always had a sense of urgency when in a purchase or a refinance. I was doing a lot more refinances when I was working at Quicken Loans, now Rocket, and Loan Depot, from a call center environment, because they were refi shops. That's what they did. Yeah. And so we were literally in 30, 40 minutes conversing, close, documents out, and maybe even signed while you still have them on the phone, right? Boom, yeah. It's in process. No one else is involved but you and the homeowner. But when you in a purchase situation, to create a sense of urgency up front, because you have so many other tangible and other people involved. We're not in control of the appraiser, how fast he gets out there or not. We're not, the title company, if they're dragging butt or if there's a problem with the title. We don't know these things are going to happen until they happen, mm-hmm. right? And I see the loan contingency, like sometimes like almost the whole length of the contract. Like, hey, we're closing on the 30th and they have until the 29th for loan approval. I'm like, so I'm trying to understand, are you really saying clear to close, in the contract, or really are they, because they really should have loan approval if they are working with a sense of urgency, the document, you got a contract, loan applications out to them, they e-sign it, any extra supporting docs they haven't already submitted, pay stubs and all that stuff, so get that stuff submitted. A week, especially right now when business is not like it was in 21, we might be backed. We're not backed up.
Yes.
So they're processing. You should have an approval within a week. 10 days, they should have a conditional approval at that point.
Yes.
But why is it, I don't understand that. So when you're talking about creating that timeline and saying, hey, we need loan approval, I'll get loan approval faster. Why are so many giving them like to the end of the contract?
Yeah, you have to really watch out for that because I think people, it's the number one thing I look at because I'm right with you. Like I actually got one on one of my listings, and then explaining it to the buyer is the same. It's a little easier to explain to your buyer, but your seller doesn't even really know that because they're not on the other side. And even if they just bought a house, sometimes they don't even know it.
Right.
But I always make it at least 7 to 10 business days before closing, and just staying on top of them, making sure they are doing their documents.
Yeah.
And sometimes, buyer could drop the ball too, and they're not sending those documents, so it's just kind of keeping everyone. But I don't know why you would have it to the day before, because that means to that day before they can back out and then you just took it off the market for at least probably 21 days, let's say.
I think it would recoil back into the process and make the lenders work a little. We know there's bad real estate agents, there's bad lenders out there. Some of them are dragging their feet. They're whatever, they're not getting this document. They know it needs to be done. They know they need this situation to get it cleared up, to get an approval, but they're like afraid to tell the customer they got to get off their couch and go get it. There's something, I don't know what it is that, it's bad news, but you know what? We found out this happened in your life, because they find out everything.
Yeah.
And we need a document for it. I don't care if you have to call the courthouse in California to get it. That's what you have to do, right?
You spent $1.25. What was that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. People don't understand. People don't understand that. I have to remind them, housing is one of the biggest money laundering things to do, because it's large chunks of money, and we need to know wire every dollar. Now, sometimes they do get it, but it's not the lender; it's the guidelines.
Yeah. And
the underwriter has to protect their tail. If that loan comes back, that underwriter could lose their license to earn a living.
Wow.
Type of thing. But let's go back to you. So, interior design, one of your passions?
God-given talent, I call it.
God-given talent?
I love it.
Did you actually take it to the street and level? In other words, other than obviously you use it probably, staging homes and helping people get their homes ready to sell, but did you actually at a time have a career in that?
Yes. I used to do it just self-employed, had a company. And then I worked for a design center for about over a year and a half. Here in Jacksonville, they're no longer around. It was a long time ago. But I've loved it since I was a kid. I love old, architectural buildings. I can walk in and envision ripping walls down. I kind of grew up in construction with my dad doing a whole bunch of stuff, and I can actually lay floors and
well,
some tile work.
let's take that experience and share with some of the audience who may not obviously have that background, which I think is probably a lot of agents, but you didn't get to the level you're at by not probably having some conversations with some of your sellers. And so share with us a little bit of what kind of the things, maybe some recent stories that you have of going in and really, hey, telling a client we need to declutter whatever and get this house, and how it turned around and they got either top dollar or sold it quickly because they took your advice.
Yeah, this was probably years ago. I had a client, of course, hated real estate agents because they were unhappy with theirs, and I came in, and great couple. I'm still friends with them to this day. They actually just texted me the other day about something, and they had a lot of stuff. But the stuff is very personal. That's the thing you have to get over. It's the personal stuff. And, everyone thinks their house is gorgeous and beautiful. So I always just try to go in. I used to do a lot in the beginning. I'd go in and really help dig down, declutter with them. As you get burned a couple of times, you stop doing little extra things sometimes. and I've gone in and done interior design, moved things around for people, and they, they get a little, why are you moving that chair there? And
Right.
but with these people, I remember I went in, I had them declutter, and we helped pack and move stuff, and they sold their house, and it was on the market for months and months, and when people came in, they didn't look like the same house. I was like, hey, you got to paint this, you got to clean this, because being in interior design, though, when I go look at houses, like even when I'm, how you FaceTime for your buyers and you want to point out everything because you don't want them to come in, I always look at like the little details, like, did they caulk down there? They didn't. Nope, they didn't. Oh, they didn't touch up that paint. Oh, the wall's dirty. But I'm a little OCD, so I'm probably to an extreme.
Well, I mean, and they've done research on this. Like, I mean, they've videoed people looking at homes and recording what they're saying, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things I always laugh at is they'll walk into a master bedroom and go, oh, well, my king size bed fit in here, and like, yeah, because people don't. Some people just don't have that spatial, whole thing going on, and where you and I think I could walk into a place and visualize it without any of its stuff in there, but a lot of people, and especially, would you agree, a lot of buyers right now, majority, probably I would go high in the 90s percentiles, that they want a turnkey place.
Oh, absolutely. If your, as you can say, product is not, too beautiful, it's not going to get top dollar right now. I mean, it needs, like, details matter. I do think staging homes helps, especially now, even for, in an appraisal aspect, they do show better. Online, they show better, which is where everyone looks, is online.
Right.
And you can do virtual staging, for people who don't have, the budget, or maybe the house is empty. But I do think it's important. But I also, on the buyer side of the design aspect, I love it because, if they're like, yeah, I don't think this will fit in here, I'll be like, yeah, no, you can probably put a bed here. You'd have enough for a dresser. Well, I don't like this. Well, you could paint if you painted the house this color, it would look so much bigger. Or, so for me, I always try to overcome those hurdles, because I know on the other side now, I'll get feedback sometimes from agents that are like, they don't like the paint color, this didn't work out. And so then I'll always have something to be like, well, that's, you could do this, this, and this. Can you share that with your buyer? So I kind of use it on both sides, or like if the house I already know, you list properties that need work, right? So if I already in my mind have something, when I go to do the showing, I'll be like, hey, listen, these are some pointers, just so you know, this property, you could do this, you could do that. We're aware of the flooring needs to be redone, blah, 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 just so that.
Do you try to especially a little bit of a project like that, especially if you're on the listing side, to reach out and get some numbers? Kind of do some preliminary work, because you said you know how to lay floor. So obviously flooring is one of probably the biggest thing. Hey, what's it going to cost to replace the carpet in here? Actually get some real numbers, because I think when you leave something so open to those who are open for suggestion from people who don't know what they're talking about, you have to insert.
Well, then, the job could be like in your mind, yeah, it's a $50,000 job, and you're like, no, that's like $15,000. It's not. But it is. Again, that's why I partner with a lot of people. Clients, even after I sell them a house, will call me. So I always have a brochure. It actually is getting ready to go out, and it's of people I've used, from anywhere from painting, remodeling, survey companies, whatever, everyone you build relationships with. And
think about your career and your success as a real estate agent, because I occasionally will see somebody like post on Facebook, hey, does someone know a whatever? And I'm like, you are a real estate agent. You are embarrassing yourself.
Hey, wait,
that is my first impression.
You know why? Because I actually found the number. I went in, my pool table moved, and I was like, man, I know where this pool table can get moved. I know I have it. So I found the guy. I don't have him saved. You know how I have him saved? Pool table guy.
Yeah, pool table guy. Yeah.
And so I finally found him. But again, certain industries, people go out. Like, people stop. It's very hard to find reliable plumbers, electricians. So even though at a time you might know someone, so don't say that about realtors.
Well, when that moment comes, and that's how I put them in. I put them in my phone too. I'll put their name, and then obviously their name of their company because it has that line for it, or especially like if I have a borrower, I put the real estate agent's name. I'll say Bobbie Jean's client, so when they call, I can immediately like connect
get to that
in
deal.
my mind what's who this person is.
Yeah.
But as a real estate agent, other top real estate agents, when your plumber goes down, that other person should know, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You should just really be calling your teammate or someone in the office, say, hey, Bobbie Jean's a top agent. I know she's got a role. Do you have someone that does drywall work? Right?
People do that. But
Yeah.
I do that, and I have people who call me, but still, I always say, like, electricians and plumbing is like a dying market right now. It is really hard to...
Well, I don't think it's a dying market. I think what's happening is
No
the
one wants to do it
the
anymore.
guys that have time for you today are getting their business going. In 6 months, they're so busy, they're hard to even schedule because they're demanding. As soon as they start building a reputation, they're getting calls and their bucket's full. But kind of roundabout this discussion is how important is it, and as any agent to be successful is to have that Rolodex to be able to get answers really quick, or you've got a 30-day sale and something needs to be fixed. You want someone out there right now, not next week because they might find another problem. You want them out there like tomorrow because you need to get the problem solved and put to bed.
Yeah, that's why I think relationships are extremely important. So when you're considering an agent to list or buy a property with, having relationships with everyone is honestly, I think what makes a good agent is because if they can help their client and, go above and beyond and build those relationships, and, they're always going to have questions. I've noticed you're not just a real estate agent. You're a counselor. And wait, what else? Like, you got to stay positive all the time, even though sometimes.
All right. This has been, I wouldn't say it's been something recent. I go through these stages in your episode 272.
Okay.
Yeah, 272, I think.
272?
Yeah, 272. Because I really think agents even some of the top agents fall into this category. My belief, talking to over 250 of you, of all the and then going in and getting, and I'm only getting looking from the lending side, and you obviously you guys are working with home inspectors, all these other people you want to have on your speed dial to make your deals happen. And you used the word relationship. I think too many agents are sitting on the back in their chair, and because as loan officers, as any of these other guys, we want to cater to you because you are a big resource as a pinnacle in the community of things are happening around a real estate agent. Every move involves all these. I think Tom tells me there's 267 things that people do when they buy a new house. Whatever those things are. From turning power on, getting cable. You think about all these different things, buying furniture, whatever it is. Doing that, you are the center of a lot of the economy and so forth. But in the real estate transaction means so much to our economy as well. But as the agent, to reach out and actually say, hey, you know what? You are a good inspector. You are a good loan officer. And actually, let's get together and how we going to, like you said, you were talking this morning, can be hard to work with as not with buyers or sellers, but with some of your support people, right? We're all like that. Yeah. We all have our little thing, right? There's people like each other for different reasons or whatever it is. But to create those relationships, because it'll just, one, make your life easier as a real estate agent.
Yes.
But it'll allow those other people to pour more time into your people, knowing that they are, and they don't want to lose that go-to. The joke in our business is, real estate agents, they make no commitment to know anyone. And there's a few listening might say, oh, I use the same person for this all the time. I've had someone tell me they've been using the same loan officer for like 6 or 7 years. I'm like, oh, wow, that's rare. But because there's not the agents are looking for the commitment from the people who are bowing to them, saying thank you for the business. They're missing out because they're not pouring back into the agent and creating the relationship that you were just talking about. You understand what I'm getting at? Yeah. Because we're out there we're like, does she like me? Does she like me? Does she want to date me? No. That's because that's really, I mean, it's kind of what you're doing, right? It's kind of that human thing going back and forth. And I really feel if you're listening right now and you find a loan officer you like or a home inspector you like, pour into them until they obviously, but the stuff is going to happen. And you might be disappointed. They might say, I can't do this loan like that condo. Doesn't mean another lender might actually be able to pick it up.
Yes.
Do you fire the lender that couldn't do that one condo deal for some reason? I wouldn't if they're reliable on everything else that you've been giving them.
Well, I also feel that when it comes to lenders, I've probably used the same circle of them. But I also love to meet new because you'll realize just like when realtors get busy, they might not want to take on certain clients. Well, lenders get the same way when they get busy. It's a lot easier.
I'm with you.
To do the easy job, but if you give them one that I gotta send extra 10 papers, this is too much work.
Or I gotta actually have some hard conversations with the borrower. I'm with you there. That one's fireable. That loan officer is fireable at that point.
So I do feel, but building relationships, and I think you should have a bucket as many because, just like there's a lot of realtors and lenders and title companies, each one has a relationship with that person because they've probably done something above and beyond. They built the relationship and the trust.
They had some value in there.
Correct. But when it comes to lending, there's so many different programs, and if you are working with people, the whole goal is to get the home sold so that the buyer's happy and the seller's happy. That is really the whole point of the transaction. Right. So it's getting the right person, because the person I might use all the time that I referred, hey, these are the two lenders I use, I always like to, personalities. You kind of know in your head sometimes what personality is going to work well with another.
I've heard that story before.
And
I don't think there's any concrete evidence to it, but I have heard many people gesture towards that.
Yeah. Or I always say, hey, listen, it's just like any sales job. Here's 2 or 3 lenders I've used. They've done transactions for me for 7 years. Let's just say, giving you an example. Right. And hey, which one do you like best? I always look at them and say, whoever answers and gets to you the fastest is the one you should hire. Because you made a point of saying
that is the number one thing, answering the phone, answering the phone, because like any sales, I think there are, and I think this isn't it could be used car sales,
anything you're selling,
anything. There's always salespeople who have a good month, and then they go away for a moment. Yeah. Might be a month or two before, because all of a sudden they're on vacation, or they don't need to answer the phone. They need to go do all these things that they couldn't do the month they were so busy. Yes. And those are obviously fireable people. They're not in the game, because I don't see you wouldn't do that. You have a great month and then say, oh, you know what? I'm not going to prospect this month. I had a great month last month, man. I'm just going to roll with what I got.
That pipeline going.
Yeah, you got to there's always those people, and obviously, I think that they don't hopefully last long, but there's always somebody that's in it. I agree with you from the standpoint, you have to have multiple lenders. You have to have and talking just about lending, you have to have lenders also who are willing to say, you know what, we don't do a VA construction loan, but I know Tom and Tracy over there, Planet Home Lending, they do a VA construction loan. You need to go give them a call, or here, I'll set up the introduction.
That is a good lender. And again, it goes back to what is the main goal of everyone in that transaction. Exactly. It's to take care of the clients. So, I've ran into where I've had a bad experience with, maybe someone on a lending side, I could have just been the listing agent, but maybe that buyer used them, and, but, they might have a great experience with the same. So I do think having some options is important, because again, it goes back to if that person's really busy. Of course, everyone knows a lot of lenders, but I ran into lenders. I'm like, well, I did call you, but you didn't answer. So
yeah, I will expose what busy is in the mortgage business. Mm. I worked in the call center for 12 years with people like listening to your calls and monitoring hey, how many credit reports you pulled today, how many hours you've been on the phone. That's a busy mortgage lender. The average person around here with writing even 3 to 5 loans a month, if they're that good, they have an assistant. If they're consistently writing 3 to 5 loans a month, if their company that they're actually working for, their processor is like an assistant, and they are really running the show. The loan officer takes the app, submits it. A smart loan officer is going to say, hey, processor, you're smarter than me, because they are. They see a lot more deals because they're working with, who knows, like a transaction coordinator. They're working with a bunch of people. They see they're working on it. They're emailing out and getting the documents. Call me if the client's buyer doesn't respond and get something to you. Then I get on the phone and kick them in the butt or whatever, or get the agent involved. That's our more there's not a loan officer in this town that is actually too busy. Just saying.
Yeah.
Because I've been there.
Hey, listen.
12 hours a day in a call center. Yeah.
You're never too busy for anything in life. It's what you want to make time for in your life.
There you go. All right. I'm off my soapbox. All right. I just have to get that out. I know something was on this morning. I said, I'm going to talk about that today. All right. Let's, so I took your bio and I want to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. Are you using any AI to do any of your work, right? Listing descriptions or anything?
I run stuff through AI, yeah.
Yeah. So I fortunately had Lyman Starmer on. Lyman has created a actual AI home search. And people are lumping. I'm seeing all these trainings going on. People, we're going to talk about AI today. You don't. I look at the person. The only thing you're doing is you're watching somebody on YouTube and trying to regurgitate what they're telling you, and then that person's regurgitating from someone else, and but Lyman's actually doing it, where you actually are having a conversation. Just like if you and I were talking, you were having a buyer consultation with me. Hey, what kind of house are you looking for? How many bedrooms? How many kids do you have? Because we need to know how many dogs or whatever, and all that kind of stuff. All those things that you ask to kind of help drive. That's what AI can do, but it can't just grab the MLS and start telling you, because who puts the information in the MLS?
We do.
Yes. And I hear that one of the biggest things, I was going around with Lyman and talking to brokers and agents about this, and they're like, yeah, we hate it when that agent, it's got a pool, but they don't even put it in the description. And the only reason we know it's got a pool is because it's in the pictures. So he's actually developing AI where it's actually reading the pictures and also taking the areas where you put all the details about the home in, because agents are not perfect people.
What?
Yeah. So I just to put that out that is out there and coming. He's actually got it right now where you can put his widget on your current site where people normally go on, do drop down. Hey, I want 3 bedrooms, I want whatever. And where they can actually start typing in, like they're typing in the chat GPT, or talk to it and have a conversation with it about what home and it starts pulling up listings and narrowing it down. As the more information they give, the more information. But this is where Zillow and these other places, Zillow, that's not their platform. Because they want that lead up front so they can sell to you. That's their money generator. What this is doing is keeping people on your site longer, because they're going to your site. They're not going to go to Zillow because it's got this, because more and more people are moving over to artificial intelligence because it actually gives them the answers versus a bunch of ads like Google.
Yeah, and it's free.
Yeah.
It's your free assistant.
Or even Zillow, it's who's paying the most, or these other sites, who's paying the most is going to pop up first. So just a little tip on it. But if you should be using the agents that are listening out there. You go and do your bio, you go and do your listing descriptions. AI is looking for AI. So as things evolve, and AI is searching around for these homes, if you're using AI, it's looking for itself out there first. It is natural language that it's creating. So put your information in for your bio, let it write it. do your listing description.
I already did.
Let it write it. But you can actually upload the pictures to AI.
Yep.
Which is very interesting if you haven't done this.
I showed you my picture. I uploaded pictures, and that's what it spit out.
Yeah. That if you're not doing, I think if you're doing a listing description, upload the pictures and say, okay, create a listing description, and then go in and add some extra in there and then finalize it.
Yeah, make it your own.
Yeah, but it'll actually do a lot of work and probably point out things that maybe you might miss or just not think is important, but it finds it for you.
Oh, I love AI.
Yeah, it's
I
going to
use it to write a lot of my Google reviews.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, Google reviews for other. You're not reviewing yourself.
Reviews. Well, yeah, wherever I go.
Yeah.
I like to leave reviews.
Oh. So you just put in there.
It's a little market, yeah, a little trick to my marketing. But yeah, I'll leave reviews and I go in there like, can you please make this with 121 words? Make it appeal to.
Yeah, and that's actually and that's the basics of AI. It can do so many different things as things are coming out. But
my favorite is, please take out that, because you're like, I didn't even say that word. Take that word out.
Well, one of the basic things I do for is for my descriptions and IG captions, right? Mm-hmm. And what I catch it sometimes, even though I've told it because I've done so many with it, do not put a link in there that isn't the actual link, right? So if you don't actually, hey, this is Bobbie Jean's Instagram, mm-hmm. and I tell it I want her social media links in there, it'll make up its own Bobbie Jean Instagram thing, and it might not even be your true Instagram thing. So you have to catch it. So I've told it numerous times, and I have to catch it so often. If you don't actually have the link, do not make one up. Yes. I scold it every so often.
Well, that's when I leave reviews. Sometimes I'll be like, hey, please add their website in from Google. Da da da.
Yeah.
And
so I let it read your bio.
Okay.
And
what is
well, the introduction, my intro was created by ChatGPT. So I uploaded. That's what I've been doing. Because I can upload everyone's bio if they have multiple bios out there. Just chunk it all in there and say, hey, give me a really good intro for the show. Because I upload all my transcripts to the show. That's how it creates I'll say, hey, here's Bobbie Jean's transcript. In this reel, she's talking about. And then create a caption and then add all the SEO in there. So it's very familiar with the show because it's reading the transcripts and all the other stuff. Yeah. So let's pop out here's a good question right here. You've been in real estate 14, 15 years now. What skill set do agents need now that wasn't as critical as when you started?
Well, when I started, I feel like we're home sat on the market for, 90 days.
That was standard.
It was kind of standard. I will say now, from when I started, it's more of just the I feel like buyers don't have the urgency to go buy, and unless they really have to, like maybe if they are moving. That's what I've personally noticed on my listings, is, when you follow up, it's like, oh yeah, we just started looking, they're going to buy in 4 months. Well, okay, that's a long ways away. This house better be gone in 4 months. And I feel like people, back then the rate wasn't a big issue. And now it's everyone talks about rate. And I'm like, okay. We can all refinance when rates drop again. That's what they used to do. Yeah. I think my parents paid 12% or something on their rate for a house.
That's so. If you're an agent listening right now, and because this is a conversation, because I've had a recent situation where the buyer, they want to buy, they're in a condo, they're ready to get out and get a house. Excellent customer. They literally could buy almost anything they wanted. Mm-hmm. A good portion of the homes listed out there today, they could buy. You could get approved for, no problem. They have money down, the whole 9 years. They're waiting for this mystery interest rate. They're like, hey, I can't wait the interest rates get to the low fives. I'm like, okay, you have to understand something. Northeast Florida, especially, and I think we're in we're in a unique kind of area. We have good high-paying jobs here, financial market, so forth, lifestyle, we have a lot of things that people are moving to Florida for, right? And COVID accelerated that. If those rates drop, like as you and I talked before the show, if they drop below 6%, people are going to go crazy.
Yes.
And we're right now being closer to 7%. They can negotiate. They might get $20,000 or $30,000 off the actual value of the home as it would compound or appraise. But if it goes down to 6%, they're not going to give that disc. It's not going to be a buyer's market anymore. It's going to turn back to the sellers because there's such a demand in our area. And so I'm 100% with you. Buy now. Yeah. Maybe you get a high 6-7%, whatever your interest rate is. Do the buy down. Negotiate with the seller to get you to do the buy down. So gives you 24 months of a low payment, knowing that somewhere in that 24 months, if the rates drop, you then refinance and lock in the long-term rate that you want. That's what you should be. Every agent should be having that conversation with these buyers who are kind of procrastinating about, the interest rate. Well, suck it up for a little bit, but negotiate the buy down.
Well, that, and again, I don't know how many times have I heard, this is going to be my forever home. So now I'm actually working with clients again that I've sold some house for. So I was like, don't tell me it's going to be your forever home, because that's what you said in the last one. So we already know this is not your forever home. And, there's a lot of other things. I know you can recast some loans. Yeah. Which is, sometimes I think some lenders, I don't know recently because I haven't asked about it, but they could do 2 recasts sometimes. Some can do 1 recast. But you never know what life is going to throw you. So, like, if you got to buy, don't wait. Don't be throwing your money away for rent. You might not be able to buy. Let's say if you're at your max, you might not be able to buy a lot more house than you used to be able to buy because of the rate. But overall, real estate is still a great investment. And eventually those rates are going to come down. And if you're still in that house, you can refinance. I personally didn't even buy down my own rate because I was just like, the buy down was just a little ridiculous. And I was like,
Well, yeah, unless you can get the seller to pay it, it really makes it.
It was like, I just want a cheaper house. So, I mean, I guess it depends on how people look at it, and everyone is different. Everyone looks at numbers different. I'm always just like, hey, just think, and next year, you can refinance it, and, it'll be down to where you want to be. But I feel like that's really the biggest hurdle in that. A lot of people think, which houses have been dropping, prices have been dropping. Yeah. Really, because there's, well, me and I know some other agents I spoke to, I mean, the showings have been down compared to where it used to be. But I think people underestimate the amount of people who are actually sitting on the sidelines with what we're discussing. Yeah. They're looking at the interest rate going, I'm going to wait till it goes back down. Yeah. Okay, one, you're going to be whatever amount of rent you're paying over that period of time. Two, I always tell people, if you find the house that's in the neighborhood you're looking for, that has, no house is 100% perfect of what you see your utopia house to be. I don't even care if you build it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so, but there's only one piece of dirt with that address, with that house, however it's located, and you love it. You've got to move. You've got to move on it, because the reality is that even if that house came back around when rates dropped, today you might be one of 2 or 3 other people who might be looking at that house. I guarantee if there's 3 people who are willing to make offers on that perfect, just ideal home, ideal neighborhood, schools, whatever, there's going to be 10 or 15 when rates drop, because there's just that many other people on the sidelines. And then how many people did you handle really over the last decade, but especially 19, 20, 21, when rates were, you were saying 3 something, some of these VA loans were doing below 3, that were moving from community to community just to be closer to their friends, or like, hey, I live in Nocatee, I don't like it here anymore, or vice versa, I want to move to Nocatee. And we had all these little local moves. That has kind of really been stamped down because of the higher rates.
Yes.
Yeah.
And kind of what we were saying before, there still is a lot of there's a lot of money moving into Jacksonville. So there is still a lot of cash transactions, and there always really has been a lot of cash transactions. I feel. Yep. But I do think that if you want to buy a house, well, why wait?
Yeah.
I just, let's negotiate the price. Let's make it up to get you where you want to be. It's very frustrating though, because you got to keep everyone excited.
Yeah.
You got to tell the buyer, do you want to buy? Then tell the seller it's going to sell. It's just a little bit slower now, but it's going to sell. We're priced right, or hey, well, we got to, paint this room because it's not looking that good.
Well, it goes back. I think a lot of people look for that perfect utopia. You and I have been in the business long enough that unicorn does not exist. If you think it's your unicorn, then you need to move on it, because in your eyes it's a unicorn. But you and I know if you're looking for a deal, which we got all those clients that are always looking good. Everyone wants to feel they got a good deal.
Yeah.
Now is the time, because you can negotiate price. You and I and anyone buying a home right now, we have no control over the interest rate. You can't control that.
No.
So if you say you bought a home in June of 2025, 10 years from now, people can predict what interest rate you probably got. Mm-hmm. But negotiating, whether it's off the price or getting to buy the rate down or giving you, paying you for your closing costs, whatever those other little things are, this is the time to get the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that we should really just educate, because when I walk into a house, I just had it happen to a good friends of mine, and we found out what the house closed for, but we lost a multiple offer. And, they asked me what they should pay, because again, right now, people, the house was on the market for already 30 days, and the day I decided to show it and submit an offer, there was another offer on it, okay? I can't,
Murphy's
no one
Law.
can help that, okay?
Yeah.
And, but a lot of people don't want to be paying over list price because, of rate and this, and I'm always like, if you lost this house over $5, $10, $15, $20, $30,000 to pay over, would you be able to sleep? That's,
Or would you just simply be upset, right? I mean, or,
they were
I hear
upset.
you. Yeah.
So I was joking with them, and I said, "I see, guys, I told you." But when we saw the price, I think there was more behind it. Their price, so you can't.
Let's strategize. Let's talk a little bit about, because you've been through different markets. Mm-hmm. We know, in the 2021 time period. I mean, I've heard, as many as one agent had 60 offers on a home. Literally, I'm like, how do you sift through all that? How do you strategize now, especially because if you do have that really great home in that great neighborhood, and it goes live that first weekend, there's likely to be a handful of offers right now, because it's just that everything's ideal, that a lot of people are willing to pay for. How do you strategize with your buyers to put forth, hopefully, the best deal, because they don't want to lose this over $5,000, for example? What kind of conversation are you having with them? What are you talking about?
Well, I always go back to what I said before. Mm-hmm. What would you be upset if you lost it over? And I'll show them the comps, and then I really just say, okay, let's put yourself in the seller's shoes. What do you think is important to them? Sometimes price isn't important. They want it to close in 10 days.
Right.
Maybe they have somewhere to go. Maybe it's been on the market for a while, and they're getting ready to close on the new construction. They're stressed out.
Or they haven't actually found the home they're moving to, the seller, so they want a longer close.
Yes, because you do have that.
Yeah.
I have a lot of times I ran across that. Well, what if I sell it and I have nowhere to go? I'm always like, don't worry. We're going to sell it at the exact time. The exact home's going to be ready. Just watch. Because in this industry, I feel like there's been homes I put up. I'm like, oh, they're going to go so fast. Then they take a little longer. Then I put another one up, and I'm like, I would have thought that would have set a little longer, but it just flew off the market.
Right.
So I feel like just having that conversation of, and you should already kind of know your client from the beginning of, like, where their head is, where's their max budget, what's important to them. Because I've walked into houses and I'm like, this is the perfect house for you guys. Like, you like the location, you like this. Yep. You don't like the color of the cabinets. We can paint those, but everything else is great. All the cabinets open, close. So I feel like we can
change the color of the shower curtain. It's okay.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of the market we're in right now. It's just like you have everyone's nitpicking on things, and you have the interest rate, and you still have some sellers that are in the I don't want to give my house away.
Well, you're getting onto something I think is really important. That it's kind of we kind of gestured a little bit. Sometimes we get in our routine, and we neglect some of the details, and how important it is to really sit down, because some of these buyers are procrastinating a little bit. They are looking at the interest rate. They know they want to buy a home, but they're like, oh, look at that payment. But if you sit down and really ask a lot of the questions that you're gesturing here, sometimes you have to turn around and say, okay, yes, this is why you're making the offer on this home. You want to make the offer. This is why you're making the offer, because remember the 9 other things that on the 10 things you wanted. This is 9 of the 10. I mean, that's perfect. You're not going to get 10 out of 10. It just doesn't happen. But because you have to, by doing a little, I call it jujitsu, right? You got to turn it back on them a little bit, based on what you said.
Yes.
You wanted a large backyard. This has a large backyard. You can run your dogs.
So you said you wanted this, this, and this, and this, right? This house has this, this, and this.
And it even has that. Yeah. But you have to sell it back to them sometimes.
Well, yes, and I also feel like this is when it's important to have truly a good real estate agent that does understand the market. And because sometimes, like going back to lending, you might be able to get them with someone and they might be able to do something better than the other lender, so it does help their buying power so they can get the house they want. But having an agent that really does understand the process of buying and selling in today's market is very crucial.
Go a little bit into, so we're going to turn it around. You're still representing the buyer, but the conversation if someone's listening right now and wants to, an agent who's listening right now and wants to come after talk to you about one of your listings, what would you tell them they should be making that phone call to the listing before they make the offer?
Yes.
Make that call to the listing agent. What kind of things should be asking you?
I always phrase it as what's really important to the seller. Just like what's important to the buyer. And when you ask that question, it's going to answer a lot of, they might tell you they really don't want a fast closing. They don't, price is really important to them. I always call before I write an offer. I know it's not done all the time because, again, I have a lot of listings and I've been a big listing agent.
All of a sudden an offer shows up in your email, right?
I don't even get a text message and I'm like, huh? And nowadays we get so many spam ones from these investors like, let's do creative financing. They can live there and we can.
No.
So I think that, again, goes back to hiring, even if you go show one of my properties or I'm showing one of your properties, I normally always call the people or at least do a text message and explain it. And also I like to explain about my buyer to the listing agent, because if I have a great relationship, I feel, with my buyer and that listing agent understands it, when the seller, which this has happened, says, well, do you know anything about that buyer? Sometimes that can pay in your favor, because if I just, that person could be from a small town in the same small town that this person's moving from, and that seller might have a fond heart, or you have people who are fond of, oh, I moved here with my kids. You just never know. So I always feel, and that's why when people show my listings, I ask those questions, like, just tell me a little bit about your buyer. Where did they move from?
I think one of the biggest things in talking about the buyer is our VA customers.
Yeah.
They assume because they're using the VA loan, they're not putting any money down. That's not always true.
No, sometimes they put 20%.
Yeah. I think agents need to, I tell agents all the time that it's the best loan out there. But so many of the guys are getting out, guys and gals are getting out, and they're getting some form of disability. So they're not having to pay the funding fee. The funding fee is the maker and breaker whether someone uses the VA loan. Should they be able to, they have the benefit. If they have to pay a funding fee, but they got money down and they can go conventional, they're going to go that, because the funding fee could be thousands It's 3.3% if someone's used their benefit before. 3.3% is, huge. So if they've already got, 5% down or whatever and go that route, they're going to go that route. But so many are just out there with even just a 10% disability. Well, they don't have to pay that funding fee. So the rate is typically a little bit lower because it's obviously backed. It's got the VA backing, the government backing, so the interest rate's just a little fraction lower. So anyone receiving disability, whether they're putting nothing down or 20% or 50% down, that VA loan product is probably actually the best product for them anyway.
Well, I'm sure you know this as well. Some people can get scared of that VA thing. Like, oh, VA, I heard the appraisals are hard.
Yeah.
FHA appraisals are hard. I've never really encountered that in my real estate career.
It is an old wives' tale. Is actually what it is.
I'm always like, no, VA, if, they, there's a couple more inspections, you got to have a, wood destroying organism inspection, has to be clean.
But you're sending a home inspector out there to find that out anyway.
Yeah, I'm like, again, when you're on the listing side, you'll go through and you're like, you'll maybe point out like, hey, if we do get a VA offer, this little piece of wood that the gutter basically wore away and he's gonna get dinged. If you prep people, I feel even when I'm showing buyers, I do the same thing. Like if I already know they have a VA loan, I'm like, well, just so you know, because I've been in this situation where I'm like, I need to call the listing agent now because I'm doing a VA, but is the seller gonna be willing to fix a lot of this stuff because it's pretty obvious, like you can tell.
But my question to you is, if it's obvious, like you're saying, because if you're not getting a home inspection, you're an idiot. Okay, everyone should be getting a home inspector. The home inspector should already be pointing these things out before you. Of course, a lot of them actually do the because they know you're ordering that on a lot of homes anyway. The WDOs, right? So if it's so obvious, who is not going to go back to the seller and say, hey, you got all this, even if it's old termite damage, they're not even active anymore. Are you going to repair these? You're going to do that on a conventional loan anyway. Yes,
but it's mandatory on the VA.
Right.
So, but you also got to go back to the seller. Does the seller have the funds? Is this again, that's why relationships and communication between is to find out what's really important so that when you're, dealing with either parties, but especially if you're submitting an offer, is knowing that because you don't want it to come up. So, if I'm already saying, hey, I know this is going to have to be addressed, so this is going to be an issue, or homeowners insurance, with the roofs and everything lately, you have to make sure the roof's not that old because homeowners insurance is going to be like, ding, you live in Florida, ding.
How many times have you had anything recently? Because it's amazing with technology and everything that's out there, how these insurance companies are on top of things. They know you need a little permit to change your water heater, so they already know how old the water heater likely is, unless the homeowner did it himself and didn't tell anyone.
True.
They know this stuff right away, so you can't really get around them. They're already into it, and I tell people right away, as soon as that loan goes in the process, boom. Or as soon as you have a contract, you're calling your inspector. You should call the insurance, get a quote get up front. Even though they don't have the 4-point or wind mitigation yet, start to get an idea because they're going to go, oh, that hot water heater, that's going to be a problem. It's 12 years old, and you start working on it right at the beginning. Yeah. Well,
I also feel that, again, hiring an agent who knows that, those are things you point out.
Well, that's who we're preaching to today, our listeners.
When you're showing the property and, you don't always know everything, but those are what's important when you ask about submitting offers. Those are things that you should know. So when you're submitting that offer, you kind of already know in your head that these are going to be dings. What is our offer going to be? Is that seller even willing to fix anything? If that seller is, we need to think about that when we're putting it in our offer. And yeah, you're right. Typically when my buyers are under contract, I already, the same time I hit send, I already have the home inspector set up, and my insurance lady already has the contract in this seller's disclosure to answer questions to try to get a quote. So they just have a quote and they can go wherever they want. But
that's why you're good.
Having it packaged together, so I don't have any hiccups because I'm trying to make sure it's all good.
Well, you and I would agree. You've done enough transactions. Everyone's different. And if you don't have some sort of hurdle. How high that hurdle is different in every loan. There's a couple of high hurdles you got to get over. Some of them just hopefully just some, but there's always something that comes up, and you've got to have a conversation with the other agent and the seller or whatever, and make things happen. But the more you can do up for, I'm a big proponent of, I'm for all about pre-listing inspections. I think, again, buyers have buyer's remorse. They sign that contract. That's why I have a high sense of urgency to get them out the loan contract right away, because they're excited that first whatever hours. Yep. And then maybe they go to sleep and they wake up the next morning and they're already going, oh, did I do the right thing? Yep. So the more you can eliminate or lower the hurdles, like getting the insurance quote up front, have the insurance already, hey, when you make the offer, my insurance person told me the water heater's 12 years old already. This is something we may need to, they're willing to replace. You are already getting that cleared right from the get-go, because when that big hurdle does come that you don't know is coming, you're able to get over those a little easier.
Yes. Yeah. I just think that preparation, and it is the whole package. When I go to list, I try to, get as many hurdles that I think the buyer is going to come at, so that they're already kind of aware of it.
You're being proactive.
It's building expectations.
Yeah.
It really is. And again, I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't predict everything, but I try to overcome all those. And really, I feel like that's probably where I add value.
Yeah.
It's like one-stop shop.
Well,
I try to do as much as I can for them. And always be available, and make sure that when I'm presenting an offer that I kind of already told them these are, could come up and this could be an issue, so that they don't go to an inspection and be like, oh, wow, that's a big deal. And then I don't throw this at a listing agent that I already brought up. Hey, I just want you to know, you might already be aware of this, but this might be an issue. Again, it all goes back to communication. And the smoother the communication between everyone, the deal stays together.
I think if they're, listening to you today in this whole part that we're talking about, because I think if you're an agent out there who maybe just kind of trudging on, we know 70-some% of the agents didn't do business. I think I've, just talking to people, talking to agents regularly, and obviously looking at numbers who I'm inviting on the show and so forth. There's some agents who have excelled through this market. They're actually doing better than even when they did back when the interest rates were worth that much lower, because they are doing the things that you're talking about right here. So that client who, we wouldn't know it, but if they're doing that similar transaction with somebody else who wasn't foreshadowing, setting expectation, jumping on the insurance coach, getting an inspection out there right away, setting the timeline that you're doing to make your buyer the best buyer that could possibly be. Same thing, and then obviously doing what you're doing on the selling side by having these advisory things. If you're not doing those things and you're listening to this show right now, they may need to call you and maybe have coffee with you and talk to you and pick some more other beyond what we may have talked about here on the show. But because you're just accumulating all your knowledge. And we go back to AI, and that's what AI is, and it gets better and better as it gets to know you better and as it learns. It doesn't know certain things. It doesn't know, like AI home search doesn't know when you say, hey, I need a first floor bedroom. It might think the basement's a first floor. It doesn't actually know that. Or I want to live near the beach. Well, what is near? Near to you is different than near to me. Yeah. And so AI doesn't know this, but you've been accumulating all this knowledge for 15 years and really putting it to work. I think there's definitely other agents out there have been doing this 15 years, but they are not putting it together as you are. You've made it a routine. You're looking at me with a kind of like that's what I'm reading from you. And if anyone's listening to this, is I always felt, especially with the whole
I call it systems.
Yeah, well, you built it into your routine, that it's natural to you. Others, you may need to actually, get a notebook and actually journal every one of your deals, because it might help you remember. You may not have to refer, but maybe you do refer to it. Yes. And go back who did I call to fix that back 6 months ago to fix that deal? Because this is a similar plumbing issue, and I know they can fix it really quick. Something like that. but by journaling, because I always felt when the whole NAR thing came down, and the devaluing of, they try to devalue a real estate agent in my mind, right? That's what they're trying to do. They're valuing what you do. And that agents really should be journaling what they're doing, how much time they're actually spending at 8 o'clock at night saving marriages. I mean, how many times have you done that, right? Like the husband and wife, they're arguing over, or the wife's making the decision until the husband says she's not.
Yeah. I just dealt with that. I was joking, and they're friends of mine, and so now it's in our joke group text. I'm like, nope. Did she okay this one? No. Are you sure? Because I don't know. I don't think this is gonna fit. She said she didn't want white cabinets. And so now it's like a little thing. I'm like, well, no, we can't look at that one. Since, where's the fireplace? But again, that goes back to listening.
Yep.
To them and really just dialing down. But if you did sit down, I actually was just talking to someone who was trying to find the value of a real estate agent, because of course everyone looks at it, oh, you're making this percentage off this house, and they don't really realize the back stuff that goes into it. Like, we have to, pay for 5 million different boards, different things. Most of us have broker fees. Most of us have monthly fees. Some of us have assistants and social media people. Some of us, at night, are doing reports, behind the scene things. I actually was just trying to create step-by-step videos, because I've been doing this for so long. And that's with anything. If you gave me interior design, I would just already know in my head. But you just forget, because they're like, oh, do I need to do that? I'll be like, oh no, I already did it. It's done. Because I just forget that it's natural for me to do all of this, right now. Also, I really don't have a lot of patience, so I mean, it could be. So it's good and bad.
Yeah.
So I really do think as an agent, and honestly building relationships with other agents, it always helps. I have agents that when I see their name on listings, I'm like, oh, that's great. I know this agent. I work together. So it boils down to everyone in the transaction, if they're all communicating and they're all after the same goal, it should be less stressful and enjoyable.
Right.
But I just bought my own house, and I was yelling at myself, thinking, how do people do this?
You made me, I was focused on what you're saying, because obviously the question came into my head. Were you doing buyer broker agreements before last August?
Yes, I'm like
to some level.
90% of them were, all of them. All my buyers always signed buyers brokers agreements almost.
And it's not shocking. Some of the pundits on some of the bigger real estate podcasts that like James, who was here for the RE Bar Camp and so forth, and some other, Ricky Caruth is another. The agents are making more money now than they were prior to having to do that. And I believe, you were already doing them. Maybe you took it up a notch, or you had to do whatever they wanted you to do, so you added that to your repertoire. But when you're sitting down and the things like you said, you're doing in the dark area that no one knows you're doing. You're just doing them because
those are hours.
You just know this has to be done. Oh, this issue came up. I can solve that by myself. I don't need to involve my buyer or seller. I'm going to take care of that. That's the things they don't know. And I think if you're an agent out there right now who's listening, you need to be really detailed. Hey, and that's why I went back. I think agents should keep a notebook, especially if you're a newer agent right now. Keep a notebook on every phone call you make, everything that you have to do. If it's sending an email or even thinking about, how you're going to handle a situation. I took time tonight to think about how I'm going to negotiate this deal tomorrow, whatever it is, because you need to then hopefully take it off the notebook and express it to your buyers or sellers, whatever you're working with. There's a lot of stuff you're doing behind the scenes that makes their life easier, and that's why people pay money, because you make their life easier. That's why they pay money.
I always make the joke that I'll help you get contractors, get your insurance, have the home inspection done, get you closed, pick up your papers, do everything. But typically, I won't take you to lunch. I make you take me to lunch. It's just a little joke.
Yeah. Well, no, that catches them, make sure they're listening at the end, right?
Yeah.
Well, hold on a second. I'm taking you to lunch. Yeah. All right. Let's jump in here and see if ChatGPT's got another. Okay. Yeah, this is a good one because this is very current to what's going on, and we've talked a little bit about obviously the number of listings you've got, as well as many of the listeners, agents listening. Homes. When a home is sitting on the market longer than expected, what's your diagnostic process? What signals do you read first? Pricing, staging, marketing, or seller's mindset? I think many agents. I'm taking my wife's phone calls right now because she's in an area where she doesn't have coverage. Mm-hmm. So one of her listings called me and said, hey, the house next door just dropped their price. I don't know if it's literally next door, but on a street probably, just dropped their price $15,000. Mm-hmm. So now you have someone on the street who you're basically competing against just dropped $15,000. Mm-hmm. What kind of conversations are you having? Obviously you want to retain the listing. You don't want to lose it, especially for a seller who's being somewhat reasonable and agreeing on a price, but it's sitting there. What kind of conversations are you? How often are you keeping in touch with them?
So I personally send out weekly Friday emails. Mm-hmm. Goes over all the statistics of everything I did. Probably means nothing to them, but they get it. I talk to them at least once, probably more a week. Mm-hmm. I do deeper dives about every 2 weeks, and a deeper dive is really to see what's going on overall. Like if I want to, let's say I'm selling a house in Deerwood, just throw an example out, and I know the product, the home looks great. It's great. I know that I'm marketing it all over the whole world. Everyone knows it's for sale. I know the quality of the pictures are good. But for some reason, it's just like we really haven't had that many showings. I will dive into the community. Then if I've noticed things that, let's say I've had on the market for 30 days, I'll actually see if anything has gone under contract in the last 30 days. If those people didn't come see the listing, I'll call the people and ask them, hey, was there a reason why you didn't show this listing? Then if, let's say I can't get anything, let's just say there's nothing in there to really go off of because everyone's sitting and mm-hmm. nothing's moved, and I called the other three, let's just say that price point
is not moving right now, and
they're telling me the same thing, it's slow. So then sometimes I'll dig out deeper and go to, hey, if I want to live in zip code 32225 and I have to have a 4-bedroom and I have to have 3 bathrooms, what is available right now? And the price point that we're listed at, and I always kind of give up, maybe 50,000 below, 50,000 over. And then that'll show a larger picture. And if you can show a person like, hey, listen, it's kind of slow in this area here. Again, that's why feedback's important. It's important to give it to listing agents. It's also important when you're showing the house to, on both sides. I always try to give as much feedback as I can because I've been on the other side. Because it could be like, even though I think the house is great and everything, but they don't really like something in it, and it could be an easy change. But really trying to, again, going back to relationships, is reaching out to all of the other people in the area and just asking them, okay? Some are
seeing
easier
what kind
to talk
of
with
feedback
others.
they're getting from their walkthroughs and so forth.
Or are they even getting them? What was there, you can't pick up a house and move it. So, I mean, if you're getting that feedback, if the community doesn't, if you're noticing they're sitting on the market anyways for 90 or 100 days and you've only had yours for 30, we're kind of in the same way, the turnaround that it has been.
Do you think some agents, because this is the market, we can't change what's physically out there. The sun's going to come up. We can't stop that. That dropping the price or going and suggesting the price, they may take it, and I think we all would probably do a little bit because we recommended here, and they agreed with you within a reasonable range of, hey, okay, let's list it for this. But now because of the market and that sun coming up, we can't stop it. That, hey, you wanted to get out of here, you've got that other house, or you wanted to get out of here in 60 days because your job's, starting in August or whatever, don't take it personally to go and say, hey, we probably need to drop this 10 or 20,000.
Yes, I don't.
I think a lot of agents procrastinate on that.
It's almost, you have to be in front of the curve right now, and unfortunately the curve is kind of, I feel like, going a little faster.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes you even think you are, and then it's like a week later you could not be. Overall, I really think people staying positive in it, you get the sellers that get discouraged. I think negativity is just not good. And anytime I ever go into a listing appointment, I kind of explain it on my listing thing, saying, hey, this is, where the market is saying, what is sold. This is kind of where I'm thinking. This is our game plan. We have the numbers to back this price up, but because these two homes sold, but if we're really not getting the traffic and this one over here goes, I want you to be aware that we should, as an example, drop it down this $20,000 because this might be, but we don't want to wait too long either because we don't want to be behind the curve when everyone else is starting to put their house up. So it's a little tricky. And I feel like when going into listing appointment, if you're already ramping them up to say, hey, this is what we have, and, this is where we should be priced, this is the range that we're seeing. I feel like having the conversation when the time comes to say, hey, always having data. And if you show them, hey, this is what's going on, I did it with one of my listings recently, and I said, hey, just so you know, I think the sweet spot's this number, because if you notice, everything's moving. Even though we have this is what's moving now. Again, we dropped it, had a little activity. But again, it does go back to the urgency of the buyer.
Having that conversation in the relationship that we've been kind of hitting on throughout the show.
You have to, I always just tee them up that, hey, this is what it's going to look like. Let's not sugarcoat it. And really making sure that I talk to them every single week. If not, and if I had a showing last week, and let's say I still didn't get feedback, letting them know, hey, I followed up again, I still don't have feedback. I think just letting them know you're doing everything you can do and that you're in it and you just didn't throw that sign out there is important.
Well, my thought that just came up, this last couple minutes you were explaining that there in the details, and I know I could tell in your voice, because there's no sure thing, right? Someone asked me, is interest rates going to drop? I don't know. I can tell you what's going on and what I think and hope. There was one of the most professionals that every loan officer knows about, and some of them pay him for his, to be part of his newsletter or whatever he puts out, predicted interest rates back in 2023. By the summer of 23, we're going to be back down in the 4%. Okay. And he gets paid a lot of money to make those statements. Because there's always there's the unknown, and I think the difference is listening to you right there. The difference between being a successful agent right now in this market. I apologize. It doesn't let me close out that phone. I got the camera. Anyway, the difference between the agents who are, the 25% of the agents who are producing, or agents who have excelled in this market, is doing what you're talking about, because the ball is moving so much right now. And it's not like we're on the, you have a lot of different things that you can do when you're down there on the goal line, and you don't have very far to go. You're on the 5-yard line. You only have 5 yards to go. Great, because interest rates are low. You don't have all these other wins again in your face. But when you're back on your own 30-yard line and it's third down, that's the kind of market we're in right now. But because you're already going, hey, if this play doesn't work, we're going to run this play. And if that play doesn't want to work, but you know what? If that play doesn't work, I'm going to go back before we run play B. We're going to reevaluate the numbers and see, because things are moving. Did that house down the street sell? What did it sell for? What has it got that you don't got? And I think that's the difference that separates you as a top agent versus an agent who may not be doing as well right now.
I 100% agree. I mean, I love what I do, but it can get very stressful because I take it very personal, and I really care, and I'm like, okay, what could I be doing different? hold on, let me try this, let me do this. I'm always trying to do different social media ads, I actually just revamped almost all of it. It hasn't even been launched, but I'm always trying to really go above and beyond because and share it. I have a huge network of referrals I do, which is important. People move to Florida. So I think being able to kind of just explain to them what you do every week and what you are doing, even though it can get tedious, it just reinsures them and keeps them positive because, some of them might have a time frame, but then some of them, might, hey, I don't need to sell right now. I have all this time, but you still have to explain to them it does kind of matter.
I want to finish with this because this is always a good reel.
Okay.
Why do you love real estate?
I love it because I love the smile that I get when this transaction is done from the person that I work for. Mm-hmm. I think it's a high.
Yeah.
It's, the little hurdles you come, it's kind of sad because, a lot of them will think they won't hear from me, but they hear from me because I have a whole follow-up system that I do forever and ever and ever. But some of them, I still check in probably every week for a couple months afterwards, and then it kind of, some of them stay and then some of them trickle off to just my normal contact. But I really love explaining to people that, hey, it's great to own a home. One of my favorite things about my life is I do love to travel, but I love to come home to my house and it be exactly the way I want it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I think people sometimes neglect to realize. I think it's subliminally we do it. It was funny when I first got out of college. I was in car sales, and one of the tips was, hey, get them to drive the car home and park it in their driveway. Because now they see the car in right? They see the car in their driveway, and the importance of what it does for us emotionally and so forth, or in our psychology, of when you come home from work or whatever, and you drive into your driveway, and that's your house.
Yep. That's
there. That's your space. Yep. Your little bastion in this world, type of thing, and that it means a lot. To people, and obviously that's what you're tipped on. But I think you obviously the end game of them saying thank you. I think you also are high on the process.
Yes.
I think you love the process. You love being. You love being smart because you are, and solving the issues before they really become issues, being proactive. That's what I got out of this conversation.
Yes, really, that is probably, it's like, oh no, I can fix this. I got it. Oh no, I can do it.
Yeah.
That's even me in my own personal life. I got it. That's okay, forget it.
We want to be seen as, I'm the same way. We want to be seen as an influence. And that people are following us because they know, hey, if we get behind Bobbie Jean, she's gonna, this is gonna be successful. And
really, that's what's important. I just want everyone to be happy, make sure I did everything I could do for them, and see a smile on their face. And I would probably say most of my clients would say they can't really forget me because I'm always in their face.
Anything you like to add?
No, but if you have any questions, always feel free to call me.
Yeah, no, any agents that are out there, if there's one thing that every top agent that's come in here, we didn't really talk about it today, but is collaboration. And as much as you love the process, it's also the compliments, and the compliment would be, hey, call them, say, hey, can I have coffee with you? Tell me a little bit more about your business. I heard you on the podcast. And I think every top agent that I've had on are more than welcome. They already do it a lot of times in mentoring newer agents or just answering their questions, because it's definitely a business that everyone does differently. So you need to steal a little bit from that person, and make it your own.
And I also feel that it's, you're always going to learn something from someone else. Normally you're going to, especially if they've been doing it. And I feel like in today, with all the changes, it's really important that you have someone to call and you have a brokerage that's really educating you, because there are so many changes, and some people don't know about them. And being an agent who may have had more training or has done more transactions, you can see a lot of mistakes, and so that they're, that aren't there, and so which could be bad for, whatever parties they're representing or even themselves. So I always say, if you don't know it, ask it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't know something, I have no problem calling up and asking.
And I think any agent out there, just to piggyback on that, if you're not reaching out, especially if you are looking to change brokerages, or you don't know what broker to go with, you're new, whatever, you need to be calling other agents and getting their input. And the thing is, you do your business a certain way. Mm-hmm. If I might want to do it a different way, mm-hmm. but I call you, I learn how you do your business. Maybe Vanguard's not here, but this other broker does business over here. Maybe they're giving out leads or something, whatever it is. Yes. But you don't know until you ask. And I think every agent's willing to spill into it and say, hey, this may not be for you. Yeah. Because you found that out. There's some things that aren't for you. I'm sure there's things that you've done in your career. In your career, you've tried marketing or whatever. It's like, no, I don't like that. Didn't work for me. But I like to do this, and this works for me, so I'm going to 10x that.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. I agree with that. And I've reached out. A lot of my systems came from people that I looked up to, and I just sat down with them and picked their brain, and then took their system and tweaked it to mine. Yeah. And add to it, take it away.
You don't need to reinvent the wheel, totally. No, you invent your own wheel, is what you do. You take pieces from other people's wheels and make your own wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this, I like that, I like this. Let me just put it together. Kind of like a house. If I have this house, this backyard, bathroom, and this right here with this climate, so it never gets hot, then we're good.
Bobbie Jan, appreciate you coming on today.